While everyone else babysat their stoves like newborns, one pioneer slept 10 straight hours. Not because he was tougher, because he slept on a 2,000-year-old Chinese heating system hidden under his bed. Frontier winters didn't reward strength. They rewarded systems that kept working while people slept. Most settlers stayed alive by exhaustion, waking again and again to feed dying fires. One man didn't. He trusted a design that stored heat instead of chasing it. As this story unfolds, keep this question in mind: if you could trade constant effort for one smart decision, would you recognize it before winter forced you to stay with this story to the end? Because what he built under his bed explains how centuries-old knowledge quietly outperformed everything the frontier relied on. The technology was called the Kang. In northern China, where winters are long, dry, and brutally cold, the Kang was not a comfort feature. It was not a cultural novelty. It was survival infrastructure. Entire generations lived and died by whether the Kang held heat through the night. At first glance, it looked simple: a raised brick or clay platform attached to a wall, solid, heavy, unimpressive. To an outsider, it looked like wasted space or crude furniture. But inside that mass was a system refined over centuries of failure, correction, and observation. The Kang was hollow. Beneath its surface ran a carefully planned network of smoke channels. These channels were not random gaps. They were shaped, angled, and sized deliberately to slow the movement of hot exhaust gases. Instead of sending heat straight up and out through a chimney, the Kang forced that heat to travel horizontally, winding through brick and clay before it was allowed to escape. Every inch of brick absorbed heat. Every turn slowed the flow. Every delay captured energy that would otherwise vanish into the sky. Nothing was wasted. This was the core insight behind the Kang. Fire itself is brief. Heat stored in mass lasts. The Kang heated slowly. It never blasted warmth. It never shocked the room with sudden heat. But once it reached temperature, it radiated gentle, even warmth for hours. Long after the fire burned out, long after smoke disappeared from the flue, the platform continued releasing stored heat back into the room. Families didn't just sleep on it, they lived on it. Meals were eaten there, children played there, elders rested there. In winter, the Kang became the center of domestic life because it was the only place where warmth was guaranteed without constant labor. The house did not orbit the fire, it orbited stored heat. To the pioneer, the similarity was impossible to miss. The frontier climate matched northern China almost perfectly. Deep cold, dry air, long nights, endless labor spent cutting, hauling, and protecting firewood. Fuel scarcity was not theoretical. It was daily reality. Every unnecessary fire meant more work tomorrow. Every wasted flame meant another trip into the cold. Local settlers focused on iron stoves. Iron heated air quickly. Iron made rooms feel warm fast, but iron also cooled fast. The moment the fire died, the warmth vanished. That forced families into a brutal cycle of feeding the stove constantly, even through the night. The pioneer saw the trap immediately. Iron stoves created dependency. The Kang created independence. So instead of copying local settlers, he copied something older, smarter, tested by centuries of survival rather than decades of fashion. He built a compact Kang beneath his bunk. First, he dug a shallow cavity into the cabin floor. Not deep enough to weaken the structure, but deep enough to anchor mass. He lined it with clay bricks, chosen not for beauty, but for density. Then he raised a low platform, just large enough for sleeping, using the same principles Chinese builders had refined over generations. Inside that platform, he constructed winding smoke channels. Not straight lines, but slow paths. Corners that forced heat to linger. Turns that prevented hot gases from racing out too quickly. Every channel was sealed with clay mixed with straw, a material that resisted cracking while allowing slight movement as temperatures changed. A small firebox outside the bed fed hot gases into the system. This was critical. Fire stayed separate from living space. Smoke never entered the room. The exhaust traveled through the channels, heating the entire mass of the bed before exiting cleanly through a short flue. This separation eliminated one of the biggest fears settlers had: smoke inhalation, fire risk, carbon monoxide. The Kang was not a fire under the bed. It was a heat storage system attached to a fire. This was the key difference between the Kang and an iron stove. An iron stove heats air. The Kang heats mass. Air cannot store heat. It loses warmth instantly. Brick and clay absorb heat slowly and release it slowly, like a thermal battery. Once charged, they do not care if the fire dies. They keep working. Neighbors were skeptical. Sleeping above smoke sounded dangerous. A foreign idea in a harsh land felt reckless. Some laughed openly. Others warned him he was risking suffocation. A few said the bricks would crack, that the clay would crumble, that the whole thing would fail when temperatures dropped. But when the first real winter arrived, the results made arguments irrelevant. Each evening, he lit one controlled fire, not a roaring blaze, not a desperate inferno, a steady burn designed to heat the mass, not the air. As dusk fell, the bricks began to warm slowly. By bedtime, the fire was nearly out. The stove was cold, but the bed was only just beginning to release its stored heat. While other settlers rose every 2 hours through the night to feed their stoves, he slept uninterrupted for 10 hours. By morning, his cabin was still warm, not barely survivable, warm. Frost never formed inside. Breath did not crystallize in the air. Water did not freeze in containers. And his woodpile told the real story. Where others burned constantly just to maintain weak heat, he burned roughly 60% less firewood. That difference meant more than comfort. It meant time. It meant safety. It meant energy preserved. No endless chopping. No hauling logs in blizzards. No waking children to add fuel. No burning furniture when supplies ran low. Every saved log was another day of security. Visitors noticed immediately. They described the cabin holding warmth like an oven stone. Some said touching the bed felt like sunlight trapped in brick. Others arrived hours after the fire had gone out and still found the air warmer than any iron stove heated home. The Kang also changed how the warmth felt. Iron stoves blasted harsh, uneven heat. Faces overheated while feet stayed cold. The air dried painfully. Throats burned, lungs suffered. The Kang radiated warmth evenly from below. Feet stayed warm. Bodies warmed gently. Humidity stayed stable. People woke rested instead of dehydrated and coughing. The system barely aged. Unlike metal stoves that cracked, warped, rusted, and failed, the Kang needed only occasional resealing. Clay could be repaired. Bricks endured. Its strength was mass, not precision parts. It ignored rapid temperature swings and outlasted tools designed to look advanced. Then came the winter that changed everything. Temperatures plunged lower than expected. Supply routes failed. Firewood ran out. Some families burned furniture. Others tore apart fences and floorboards just to survive the night. The pioneer did not change his routine. One fire, one evening burn, one warm bed. While other cabins froze from the inside, his kang carried stored heat through the night like a promise already paid for. That was when skepticism ended. More settlers asked him to help design their own versions. Some built full platforms. Others heated benches or small bunks for children and elders. A few integrated cooking stoves, copying Chinese designs where a single fire cooked food, heated beds, and warmed water at the same time. Winter life changed. No more waking in darkness to dying fires. No more panic over running out of fuel before dawn. No more endless cutting just to stay alive. The Kang gave families back their time, their energy, their sleep. What made this invention truly priceless was not its materials. Clay, brick, earth, all cheap, all local. Its value was in what it solved. It turned fuel into stored warmth. It turned labor into rest. It turned winter from an enemy into a condition that could be managed. Today, modern heating systems that store energy, distribute radiant warmth, and reduce fuel consumption cost millions in research and infrastructure. The Kang did all of that centuries ago, quietly, reliably, without ever needing to be reinvented. That bed didn't make him tougher than winter. It made winter irrelevant while he slept. This story isn't really about clay or bricks or an old Chinese design. It's about what happens when someone stops reacting every night and starts thinking once. When effort is replaced by understanding. When survival becomes quiet instead of desperate. Most people on the frontier fought the cold until exhaustion decided the outcome. One man trusted a system older than borders, older than pride, and older than the idea that new is always better. And because of that, he slept while others struggled. Now think about this honestly. If you saw a heated bed built into the floor while everyone else fed stoves all night, would you laugh or would you ask questions? Tell me in the comments which one you would have been. And if stories like this make you rethink how humans actually survive extreme conditions, subscribe. Because the smartest ideas rarely shout. They wait quietly for someone willing to listen.